Hey everyone, before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Drop a comment with where you're watching from and what time it is there. I love seeing how global our community is. Now, let's get started. Halloween night. I found a house that didn't exist, and if that sounds dramatic, you've never watched your GPS insist there's nothing where a front porch is buzzing at you. At the very end of the cul-de-sac, one last porch light glowed a sickly yellow, humming like a trapped insect. The rest of the street lay dark behind us. Cold air burned my lungs. The smell of burnt sugar and faint smoke clung to the back of my throat like candy left too long over a flame. And for a second, I almost turned my cousin around. I was supposed to be the brave one. Amir's fingers hooked into my sleeve, while his other hand crushed his candy bag to his chest. Our parents' rule was simple: home by 10, no excuses. My phone read 9:38, plenty of time to hit every house. But when I zoomed in on the map, the glowing porch ahead of us was nothing but trees. No house number, no street name extension, just our little blue dot blinking at the edge of an empty gray road that should have been the end. That house wasn't there before, Amir whispered. He was right. We'd already walked this street once, and there had only been a dead end. Now a tall, narrow house leaned over the curb, steps listing, a plastic jack-o'-lantern grinning by the door. The candy bowl beside it overflowed with candy in old, faded wrappers I'd only seen in vintage posts. A corner of a missing child flyer stuck out of the bush near the stoop. The picture blurred, but the word Halloween still visible in heavy black letters that I stepped onto the walkway anyway. Because older cousins don't admit fear first. The instant my shoe touched the cracked concrete, the neighborhood sound cut out. No distant music, no cars, no wind, just the insect buzz of the porch light. My phone vibrated in my hand and jumped from 70% battery to 12. The screen map showed a blinking dot labeled you standing in the middle of a blank stretch of road with no houses at all. I turned to joke that it was glitching, reached for Amir's arm, and my hand grabbed aired. He wasn't next to me anymore. My chest dropped. Amir. My voice got swallowed by the quiet. The porch light flickered 3 slow times, 3 fast, then 1 long, like some weird Morse code. The smell of burnt sugar and smoke thickened as I rushed up the steps. The missing child flyer had slid farther out of the bush, showing more text. Last seen October 31st, 9:59 p.m. Before I could read the year, the front door creaked open on its own, breathing out a draft of cold, stale candy air that smelled like it had been trapped there for decades. Inside looked like a Halloween museum. Paper pumpkins, orange glass lanterns, plastic skeletons stained yellow with age. Somewhere deeper in the house, a clock ticked, heavy and wrong. My phone now read 9:52, but the hallway clock was frozen at 9:45. Amir, come on, joke's over, I called. His voice answered from behind a closed door down the hall. And then a second, whispering copy of it overlapped the same words half a beat behind. On a side table, a row of Polaroids showed kids in costumes standing on this same porch, year after year, dates different, but every time stamped 9:59 p.m. That was when bravery finally cracked. I tried calling my mom. No signal, just SOS only, and my phone's wallpaper had somehow changed to a blurry picture of this very house at night. I ran back to the front door and yanked it open. Instead of the cul-de-sac, there was a flat, black field stretching forever. No streetlights, no cars, just distant sirens and the sharp smell of something burning. If I walked out, I was walking into nothing, and if I stayed, I was staying with whatever collected those kids for the photos. A figure stood at the end of the hall when I turned back. Tall, shoulders hunched, head tilted. An adult, finally, I thought. Someone to yell at, someone to blame. He wore a melted plastic mask and a charred suit, and his hand was lifted toward me in a stiff half-wave. I took a step closer, and a breeze shifted his arm. The sleeve crackled. He was a scarecrow, wired to the wall beside a black, burned-out doorway. The siren sound outside rose again, syncing perfectly with the flicker pattern of the porch light. 3 slow, 3 fast, 1 long. Up here. Amir's voice drifted down from the top of the stairs. He stood there clutching his bag, eyes too wide, cheeks streaked like he'd been crying for a very long time. "We already did this," he said. "You left me here last time." Behind him, on the landing, more candy wrappers lay scattered, all with those same faded, impossible logos. On the wall beside him, one Polaroid showed my own face among the porch kids, holding a bag identical to his. Timestamp frozen at 9:59 p.m. Something inside me split between running and going to him. At that point I knew the choice, even if I didn't want it. I could smash a window and throw myself into that empty field outside, hoping I landed in my own world again, maybe without Amir. Or I could go up the stairs and try to tear us both out of whatever loop this house had us in. "Stay there," I told him, and heard my own voice echo it, thinner, from every dark doorway. I took the stairs anyway, 1 step for each hammering tick of the unseen clock. The burned living room at the top was wrong in every direction. Walls shimmered with moving reflections of other Halloweens, other kids, other versions of me dragging a terrified cousin up the same steps. The smell of smoke and sugar was choking now. The hallway clock below hammered once and skipped straight to 9:59. Light from nowhere strobed like police cars in the empty window frames, matching the porch light's rhythm. In the glass of a cracked cabinet, I saw Amir and myself. And another me, already standing behind us. Face pale, eyes empty, like I'd been here forever. The siren became a scream and then silence that I woke on the sidewalk with gravel in my cheek and a paramedic kneeling over me. Behind him was nothing but an empty, blackened foundation where a house had been, police tape fluttering in the breeze. My mom was shouting my name. Someone said the fire had been years ago. My phone map showed only trees at the end of the street, like it had been right all along. They said Amir was already home, that he'd walked back with the others, and that I must have fainted. Maybe you'd believe that. I almost did. But when they loaded me into the ambulance, I saw his candy bag lying by the curb where I dropped it. It was half full of old, faded wrappers with logos nobody prints anymore, the exact brands from the porch. The ambulance doors closed. The siren started its 3 slow, 3 fast, 1 long pattern, and beneath the sharp smell of disinfectant, the air still carried that faint, stubborn scent of burnt sugar and smoke. If a stranger handed you candy in the middle of the street instead of at their front door, would you still call it trick or treating? Or would you call it something else? I didn't think it mattered. Not until one Halloween, when saying yes almost cost me my little brother. It was one of those thin, chilly nights. The kind where fog hangs low around the streetlights, and every sound feels a little too loud. Dry leaves scraped along the sidewalk, and you could smell cheap chocolate in the air from a dozen candy buckets. I walked a little ahead, pretending to be bored, while Sammy trotted behind me in his superhero costume, pumpkin bucket swinging. He'd begged to go without our mom this year. "I'm not a baby anymore," he'd said, and she'd finally agreed as long as I stayed with him and met her by the church parking lot at 9:30. No arguments. My watch said 9:05. Plenty of time. I promised myself I wouldn't embarrass him by hovering too much. The crowded blocks slowly thinned out. House lights went from every door to every other door, then only a few glowing porches left. We were cutting through a quieter side street when it happened. We were between houses, nowhere near a front step, when a tall figure stepped out from between 2 parked cars and stood right in the middle of the sidewalk. "Trick or treat," Sammy mumbled automatically, then hesitated. The man wore a long black coat that brushed his ankles and a hood pulled low. In his hand was a plastic pumpkin bucket, the old-fashioned kind with a crooked smile. The weird part was his face. There wasn't one. Inside the hood was just darkness, not even the hint of skin catching the streetlight. like someone had taken an eraser to where his features should be that he didn't speak. He just tilted the pumpkin towards Sammy, an invitation. "Let's go," I said, putting a hand in front of my brother. "We do doors, not random. Sidewalk guys." Sammy's fingers tightened on my arm. "It's just candy," he whispered, more to himself than to me. He reached in before I could stop him and pulled out a piece wrapped in shiny foil with a logo I didn't recognize. He popped it into his mouth and made a face. "How is it?" I asked. "Like dust and pennies," he said, forcing a smile. "But it's fine." Above us, the streetlight flickered once, off then on. When I glanced at the parked car window beside us, I saw my reflection, Sammy's small costume, and the man as a blurred smudge, like the glass didn't know how to show him. My watch buzzed against my wrist. I glanced down. The second hand froze dead on 9:19 that I grabbed Sammy and walked. "We're not doing that again," I said. "Next block, actual houses." We turned the corner. Kids and parents filled this street, laughing, masks crooked, costumes rustling. For a moment I relaxed. Normal. Safe. Sammy spotted a group from his school and ran to join them, slipping into the little swarm of superheroes and monsters that I kept them in sight, weaving through people. But when the group passed under the next streetlight, my stomach dropped. At the very back, taller than everyone, walked a figure in a long black coat. Sammy's hand was curled in his, pumpkin bucket swinging. The man's shape looked stretched by the shadows, too tall, too narrow. "Hey," I shouted. "Sammy, wait." The streetlight above them blinked out completely. For a second, there was only darkness and moving silhouettes. When it flicked back on, the group of kids had scattered onto porches and steps. And there, further down the block, were only two figures on the sidewalk. Sammy and the man with no face, standing under yet another buzzing light. My phone said 9:27. Far off, the church bell began to ring the half hour, like it was already later than my screen admitted. I ran. "Sammy, get away from him." He turned toward me slowly. His eyes were glassy, chewing that same strange candy. "One more house," he murmured. "He knows a good one." "There are no houses with lights on," I snapped, looking around. Every porch on this block was dark. Curtains drawn, pumpkins blown out, as if the whole neighborhood had decided this section of street didn't exist tonight. The map on my phone spun, trying to recalculate, then looped us back in a circle to the same intersection, the same flickering light. I called our mom. The call connected, but her voice, "Hello? Hello," came through thin and echoing, like she was shouting from the bottom of a pool. "Where are you?" I yelled, but all I heard back was static and the faint sound of kids laughing somewhere very far away. I hung up and went straight for the man. "Let go of him," I said. Grabbing his sleeve, it was like grabbing fog wrapped around something hard and brittle. The fabric was damp and ice cold, and for a moment my fingers sank in too far, like there was more space than body. The man's hood tilted down to me. There was nothing inside, just a deeper hole of night. When he finally spoke, the voice didn't come from his hood at all. It seeped out of the air around us, whispering in my ear and from the cracks in the pavement. "I only take the ones who come back," it said. He came back. Sammy's pumpkin bucket was almost full of the unfamiliar candy. On instinct, I grabbed it from him, heart hammering. "Fine," I said, before I could think about how stupid it sounded to bargain with something that didn't have a face. "Take it back. All of it. Just leave him." I flipped the bucket and dumped every piece into the man's plastic pumpkin. The candy made no weighty sound when it landed, just a sort of soft hiss, like dust hitting water. The man's hood lifted a fraction, and I felt, not saw, the curve of a smile that didn't need a mouth. The streetlight above us popped and went dead. Moonlight took over, flattening everything into gray and black. In the distance, the church bell struck once, then went silent. My watch still read 9:19, second hand frozen. Sammy swayed on his feet, pulled forward as the man began to step backward down the street. pumpkins swinging in slow arcs that Sammy's shoes scraped as if he wasn't the one deciding to walk. "No," I said, shoving myself between them. If you have ever done something terrified without thinking, you know the feeling. I grabbed one of the last strange candies that hadn't fallen, ripped it open with shaking fingers, and shoved it into my own mouth. It melted like freezing sand on my tongue. The world tilted. Houses stretched away, streetlights blurred into pale comets. For a heartbeat, there were two streets overlaying each other, one alive with kids and parents, one empty and dim with only 3 figures standing under a dead light. The man stopped moving. His hood turned from Sammy to me. "Then you came back," the voice said. The next thing I remember clearly is sitting in a plastic chair in the community hall near the church, a foil blanket around my shoulders. Sammy slept on a bench beside me, his pumpkin bucket by his feet, now filled with normal candy from houses I barely recalled visiting. Adults murmured about someone calling the police, about some creep they hadn't found out on the bulletin board across from me. An old faded poster caught my eye. "Missing," it said, over photos of kids in Halloween costumes, each holding the same style of plastic pumpkin. In the corner of the poster, taped crooked, were candy wrappers with those same strange, unfamiliar logos that I looked at my wrist. My watch was ticking again. The hands were moving backward, slow and steady, sliding back toward 9:19 through the hall window, out by a different corner far away from ours. A single streetlight flickered off, then on, like it was testing the dark. If you're ever out on Halloween and someone offers you candy in the middle of an empty block, not from a door, not from a porch, just check your watch before you say yes. And if it already says 9:19, you might want to go home. You think running out of candy is the worst part of Halloween. Try the opposite. Try walking around with a bag that refuses to empty no matter how much you give away, and realizing halfway through the night that it is not the candy it is interested in. I was the Halloween king of our building, at least in my head. Every year, I was the one who knew which streets still gave full bars, which houses left bowls on the porch. That night, I was walking 2 younger kids from our apartments, Lena and Josh, on a last lap after most people had gone inside. The wind rattled plastic skeletons and deflated spiders, and somewhere far off you could still hear kids laughing. Our building doors locked at 10, and it was already close to 9:30. My phone buzzed every few minutes with Mom texting, asking for updates. We had cut onto a side street where most porch lights were off when we saw it. Hanging from a low tree branch, swaying even though the air was still, was a plain black cloth bag. No pumpkins, no cartoons, just a dark shape with a note pinned to it. Lena grabbed my sleeve, whispering that it looked like a trap. Josh said it looked like free loot. The note said, in shaky handwriting, "For late trick or treaters. Take what you have earned." That should have felt cheesy. Instead, the words made my teeth ache that we had 3 bags already sagging with candy. I laughed it off, tossed mine into the black bag to free up room, and told the kids to do the same. The second my candy dropped in, the branch lifted, as if I had taken weight off instead of adding it. The bag in my hand felt light and cool, as if it was mostly empty. Lena peered inside and gasped. All of our candy sat there in a shining heap. None of it had vanished. When I shook the bag, the rustle did not sound like wrappers. It sounded like quiet whispering, a crowd just too soft to make out. We kept walking, because what else do you do? I told myself it was a clever hidden giveaway, some neighbor's idea of fun. At the next house, a woman in a witch hat dropped candy in each kid's bucket. On the sidewalk, Lena looked down and screamed. Her bucket was almost empty. Josh's too. When I checked the black bag, those same pieces were there, the exact candy we had just been given. My phone step counter ticked up hundreds of steps, even while I stood still, like someone else was walking for me. The bag felt lighter and lighter as it filled. Magic, Josh said, eyes wide. We can never run out. He reached in and unwrapped a piece with a foreign logo I did not recognize. He said it tasted fine, then frowned and pressed his hands to his legs. "My feet feel far away," he said. Lena started crying that she wanted to go home. My lock screen said 9:45. It was a 15-minute walk back if the streets behaved. The map app showed our blue dot jumping forward and backward between blocks, never quite where we stood. That was when I looked into the bag properly. Under the mountain of tonight's candy were pieces that did not belong to us. Old brands, foreign labels, toys that looked straight out of another decade. A cracked plastic ring with the name Marcus printed on it. When I tried to tip the bag over and dump everything out, the street seemed to tilt. I spun with it, trying to spot the corner we had just turned, and kept facing the same house over and over, porch lights off, windows dark that I told the kids to hold on to my hoodie and not let go. "Some tech jerk in the building set this up," I said, blaming a neighbor I barely knew because it was easier than the alternative. "Probably hid magnets or something." I grabbed the bottom seam of the bag, meaning to rip it open and let whatever mechanism was inside clatter onto the sidewalk. The cloth fought me. When the fabric finally tore, a rush of air poured out, so cold it made my eyes water. For a heartbeat, I felt tiny fingers tugging at my hands, pulling the torn edges closed again. A small voice whispered from inside the bag, clear as a kid behind a door. "Do not let them close it this time." Lena heard it too. Her knuckles went white around my sleeve. "Who was that?" she asked. I did not have an answer. I knew only one thing. If I dropped this thing and ran, some other late group of kids would find it hanging from a tree next year. Maybe even next street over tonight. I had to choose. Save myself and the kids now, or carry it and try to drag us all back to whatever counted as home. My building doors would be locked any minute. My responsibility would not be. "Stay behind me," I said, and slung the bag over my own shoulder. The world reacted. The phone clock blinked from 9:52 to 10:01 in a single flicker. Every porch light on the street went out, one by one, until we were standing in the shallow glow of the bag itself, a dull pulsing light pressing against the cloth from inside like something breathing. In the dark windows around us, our reflections lagged, moving a fraction of a second behind. Sometimes they did not match at all. Josh waved and his reflection stood still. Lena's reflection had no bag on her shoulder. Mine did, but in the glass it looked much bigger. I understood then. The candy had never been the prize. The bag was copying exits, gathering ways out, keeping them. Every safe route home, every unlocked door, every shortcut, all pulled into this lightweight nothing I was carrying. No wonder my step counter thought we had walked miles. Somewhere, for the bag, we had to I did the only thing that made any sense inside that nonsense. I grabbed the mouth of the bag, told Lena and Josh to close their eyes, and turned it inside out over the cracked sidewalk. The light spilled out in a blinding rush. For a second I saw other streets, other years, kids running, doors slamming, a little boy in an old costume labeled Marcus clutching a black bag that would not empty. Then everything snapped that we were in the lobby of our building. The night guard, a man I had never seen before, sat at the desk even though we had never had a night guard on Halloween. He buzzed us in without a word, like he had been expecting us. The lobby clock said 10:03. My phone said 9:59. I did not open the bag to check which one was lying on the notice board by the elevator, alongside lost keys and guitar lessons. An old, curled flyer hung by one thumbtack. It showed a boy named Marcus who had vanished on Halloween years ago. In the photo, he held a plain black trick or treat bag identical to mine. In my room later, exhausted, I set our new store-bought pumpkin bag in the corner, completely empty. When I turned off the light, the room went quiet. Then, in the dark, I heard it. That same soft, crowded rustling from the corner. The sound of a bag that is somehow too full. If your bag ever feels lighter the more you put in, just remember, something is probably carrying the weight for you, and it might want you to follow it home next.